Ever since the release of Persona 3 Reload, there has been lots of people trying to get into the Persona community, but there is one problem. They don't know where to start in the franchise. And to be honest, there is no good or bad way to start the Persona series. But in this video, I will be showing my top recommendation of the first Persona game that you should play. By the way, there is no good or bad Persona game. And also, this is my first Persona video ever. So before I continue with the video, all I want to say is please like and subscribe if you have the time to. And before I continue with this video, I just really want to say that this is all my opinion. Everyone has their own opinion, so yeah. Okay, so right now you should be seeing all, if not most, of the Persona games and spin-offs in front of you. So very quickly, to get all of this stuff out of the way, we will not be including any of the Persona dancing games, such as Persona 5 dancing, etc. Any of the Persona dancing games in that fact. And also, we will not be including any of the Persona Q games, such as Persona Q1 and 2. And we will also not be including Persona 4 Arena. So pretty much no spin-offs are included. So right now we only have the mainline and follow-up games. So right now the only games that should be on your screen is Persona 5 Strikers, Persona 5 Tactica, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 3 FES, Persona 4 Portable, Persona 3 Reload, Persona 5, Persona 5X. And to go ahead and get this out of the way, we will not be including any follow-up games such as Persona 5 Strikers and Persona 5X, etc. So what you're seeing in front of you hopefully are the mainline games. And guys, I just noticed this and I'm so sorry, but I did not include Persona 1 and 2 on here for a good reason. One, you'll need a PlayStation 1 or PlayStation Portable to play those, or an emulator, your choice. Number two, they're just not the best Persona games to start off with. And Persona really started to get good after Persona 3. That's where it really started to take off. That being said, you still should play those like I did. And to start things off, I just want to say there is no correct game to start off with in the Persona series. And that's because all of the Persona games are standalone. Basically what I'm saying is Persona 4 has its own story, Persona 1 has its own story, Persona 2 has its own story, Persona 3 has its own story, Persona 5 has its own story. You know what I'm getting by now, right? But with that being said, let's get into the actual video. Okay, so today we will be starting off with Persona 5, which a lot of people think is the best Persona game, and I have to agree, but still most definitely not my favorite, by the way. Let's get into some of the gameplay aspects. In Persona 5, you play as Ren Mamiya, but in the game, he will go by Joker. But in this video, we will just call him by his canon name, Ren. So in Persona 5, Ren moves to Tokyo, and because of your parole, you have to move in with Shinjiro at the cafe. But while you're at school, you notice a strange app on your phone. You press the app icon and you're somewhere completely different, you think. But while inside that place, you and your friend Ryuji stumble onto Komoshida's palace. There you unlock your persona, and you use your persona to fight against the ill wills of society. And in this game, you will form bonds known as social links, but in this game, they're called confidants. You will use these bonds to create and strengthen your personas. Speaking of personas, you will use your persona in an RPG turn-based like system. But right now, we are mainly focused on the difference between Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. So right now, you should be seeing both of the game icons on your screen right now. Okay, so in Persona 5 The Royal, there are lots of quality life improvements from the vanilla Persona 5. And before I continue, no, this is the same game, basically, almost. But Persona 5 Royal does add a third semester of gameplay that the original Persona 5 didn't have. And lots of improvements, like your bullets reloading after every battle, you have a grappling hook now, and some baton pass improvements. And also you get to explore 2 new palaces. Like I said, another quarter/third semester of the game. And unfortunately, you would be missing all of that in the vanilla version of Persona 5. But with that being said, the vanilla version of Persona 5 does have its benefits too, like price on one hand. As I'm about to show you on my phone, currently Persona 5 Royal is running at $60 whopping, while on the other hand, the vanilla version of Persona 5 is running you $20, but currently $8 because there is a sale. So in my opinion, just choose what version is best for you. But in my opinion, I would just go for Persona 5 Royal, because you do not want to miss out on that 3rd semester of gameplay. That is lots of hours added. As you can see, one game is significantly longer than the other. There is Persona 5 Royal and Vanilla Persona 5 on each side. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm paying $60 for a game, I would want it to be super long and enjoyable. And that is exactly what you're getting from Persona 5 Royal. Like I stated, the vanilla version of Persona 5 does have its perks and whatnot. But in my opinion, I just rather go for Persona 5 Royal. But if you don't care about all that, the vanilla version of Persona 5 is perfectly fine. So as of today, my answer is Persona 5 Royal. Now that we're done with Persona 5, let's go on to Persona 4. Next up on the list, we have Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden. And also, this is my favorite Persona game, so be aware if I'm a little bit biased. Persona 4, you play as Yu Narukami. Move into a small town named Inaba. But when you first move in Inaba, you start noticing a lot of weird stuff going on. There has been people getting murdered left and right and hung up on telephone poles. I know that's pretty dark. But when you move to Inaba, you move with your Uncle Dojima. And with him, he has a kid named Nanako. On your first day of school, you meet Yosuke and Chie. Those two will be staples throughout the game. And a whole bunch of other people, by the way. And while you're at school, you start hearing about this thing called the Midnight Channel. The Midnight Channel is where on a rainy night, at midnight, you go to your TV and it plays your soulmate. So naturally, Yu Narukami checks out the Midnight Channel. But while he's looking into the Midnight Channel, something feels strange. He gets sucked into the TV, and that's where the game begins. You end up escaping the TV, but the next day, you, Chie, and Yosuke, they check out this TV thing. And from there, they awaken their personas to figure out who's the mass murderer. But I will not go any deeper than that because I do not want to spoil you guys. But let's get on to the main point. What you guys should be seeing in front of you right now is Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden. And I'm just going to say this really fast. It's Persona 4 Golden. And I know some people may feel as if they're the same game, but they're really not. I mean, sure, Persona 4 Golden just feels like Persona 4 with Marie, but it also adds lots of quality of life improvements. Like whenever you're in battle, they've added direct commands. Direct commands basically gives you the option to command 3 characters instead of the usual one, which is Yu Narukami. While in vanilla Persona 4, you would only be controlling Yu Narukami. And on top of that, it's just a lot more convenient to play, because with vanilla Persona 4, you would need a PlayStation 2 to play. And I have a feeling most people do not have a PlayStation 2. While on Persona 4 Golden, you can pretty much play it on any modern console. That being said, I do not think Persona 4 should be your first Persona game that you should play. Mainly because of its older visuals and older gameplay aspects. And also older mechanics. But thankfully, Persona 4 is getting a remake just like Persona 3 did. As much as I love this game, it should never be anyone's first Persona game. But the music track just slaps, man. As much as I would love to recommend Persona 4 Golden, I sadly cannot because of the reasons I just stated. But you should definitely still play Persona 4 Golden in the future, especially if you like older JRPG games. But now, let's go on to Persona 3. Persona 3, the best Persona game when it comes to story, has not one, not two, not three, but 4 mainline games. I mean, all of them cover the same thing, but we'll get into all that in just a bit. In Persona 3, you play as Makoto Yuki, but in the game, he will be referred to as Leader. But in this video, we will call him his canon name, Makoto. So Makoto's parents are dead. They've been dead for a while. Makoto moves to Tatsumi Port Island. After Makoto moves there, he started noticing a lot of weird things like the sky being green and coffins everywhere. He thinks nothing of it and just goes straight to his dorm. There you meet Yukari and Mitsuri. And while you're at school, you'll form confidants / social links. Kind of like what you would do in Persona 5 and Persona 4. And while you're at school, you'll see Junpei and a lot of other people. And you figure out the cause of all this stuff, like the coffins and the sky being green, is something called the Dark Hour. It's a secret hour that only occurs at midnight. But no one normal notices it because they are sleeping in their coffins. And you also find out that to put an end to the Dark Hour, you have to climb up this massive building named Tartarus. There you will climb the massive building and figure out the cause of the Dark Hour. And like I mentioned in Persona 5, there's a lot more to this story than what I just said. But anyways, we're just here to figure out what version of the game that you should play. In front of you, you should be seeing all 4 of the main Persona 3 games. They all cover the same story, but some just does it better than the other. So off the rip, we can immediately rule out the original Persona 3. Mainly because everything else here just does what that can do 10 times better. And like I said earlier with Persona 4, you would need a PlayStation 2 or an emulator to play it. The next thing that we can immediately rule out is Persona 3 FES. And this is where it starts to get difficult, mainly because of the fact that it has an extra 3 hours of gameplay. And that's because of Episode Aigis. But here's the catch. With Persona 3 Reload, in the next couple of months, Episode Aigis will also release on there with better graphics, visuals, and mechanics. Now, all we have left is Persona 3 Portable and Persona 3 Reload. And I really had to think about this one hard. Although Persona 3 Portable has the FemMC route that you can play as, which has a new soundtrack, new social links, and lots more stuff. In Persona 3 Reload, it has better visuals, better mechanics, better graphics, better shuffle time, better fusion mechanics. As you should see in front of you right now, the original Persona 3 and Persona 3 Reload, side by side. As you saw, the changes were pretty drastic in my opinion. And let's not forget about the new soundtrack that Persona 3 Reload brings to the table. And it slaps, by the way. So, in personal opinion, I have to go with Persona 3 Reload. Now on to my final decision. Persona 5 Royal and Persona 3 Reload. Those are my 2 top recommendations of the first Persona game that you should play. But which one is number 1? Well, let's find out. So let's go over some facts really quick. Persona 3 Reload has lots of improvements from its predecessor, the base model Persona 3. Persona 5 Royal, on the other hand, just adds mainly quality of life improvements from the vanilla version of Persona 5. But this is still a very hard decision, but ultimately, for the first Persona game that I think you should play is Persona 5 Royal. Mainly because it takes place in a newer timeline, and also it's because most Persona fans started off with this exact game. And it's just a really good game to start off with in the franchise. That being said, this game pacing can also be slow at times. But Persona 3 Reload is also a very, very good game, but it does fall short on some aspects too. But that's my decision, and yep, like I said earlier, there is no bad place to start off in the Persona series. Like I said earlier, Persona 3 Reload is still very high on my recommendations. But that's pretty much it for the video. I put a lot of time into making my first Persona video, so if you could, please like and subscribe, and have an amazing day.